So far in the workshop, we've been looking at file shares pretty heavily. And let's shift gears just a tiny bit to files on endpoints. And these are specifically files that contain some kind of credentials. And this could just be like passwords.txt with a bunch of credentials in it. Or, kind of more importantly, it could be files that contain tokens that give access to cloud services. So let's look at a quick example here with the AWS CLI. So we just issue a command here just to confirm that we are authenticated to an AWS tenant of some kind through this workstation. And let's kind of, pretend that a threat actor is on this host and wants to get the credentials for this AWS account. When the AWS CLI kind of does its thing, it uses a file called credentials, and the file path is here. See users, whatever username you installed your AWS CLI under .aws, and the file is credentials. And if we get the content for this file, it's just using the get content commandlet from PowerShell, the contents are returned to us. And I know the key is displayed here, but it'll be invalidated by the time you're watching this video. But this demonstrates nicely how the credentials for your cloud resources can potentially be stored in plain text and through kind of no fault of the user. The user didn't break any policies, didn't store these credentials, in a file called AWS passwords.txt or anything like that. This is just how AWS does it on Windows and other cloud services as well. The Azure token is not plain text like this, but as we'll see later, it's very easily decrypted with DPAPI. So at this point, we want to know when this kind of stuff happens. We want to know when this file is accessed and who accessed it. And by default, there's no log in Windows that kind of tells you that this happened. So what we need to do is use SACL auditing to enable this kind of auditing on the file. So we'll go ahead and do that, and we'll browse to this credentials file. We'll right click on it, go to properties, then the security tab, and then advanced down here. And then we'll go to this auditing tab. We'll click on add. We'll select the principal of everyone, and we'll just audit everything, and then click OK, apply, and then we'll close out these windows, and we'll try to do the same command again to get the contents of the file. And when we browse to our events, we want to look at the 4663 event, and we see that we have a couple of these already generated, and we see that Explorer is accessing our AWS creds, etc., as well as the search protocol host. And this event at the top here is the one that we're interested in, and I'll zoom in a little bit here. There we go. And we could see that very similar to the file share access events that we looked at earlier, this event tells you that, hey, this user, DEFCON administrator in this case, accessed this particular object, and the object is a file, and the file name is C users administrator AWS / credentials. And another really important piece of information is the process, both the name and ID of what actually accessed the file. So to quickly recap this really quick section, we confirmed that this particular workstation is authenticated to a cloud service, in this case, AWS. We then used just a simple PowerShell command to grab the credential contents of the token that is used by the AWS CLI to authenticate to AWS. And when we did it the first time, there was no telemetry generated by default. However, we went ahead and set a SACLaudit on the file, where when we accessed the file again, we got the telemetry generated. So this kind of, or at least kind of should beg the question of how do we know where these files are, and how do we set these kinds of SACLs on them in a programmatic manner so we don't have to actually go, in, Windows Explorer and do 1,000 right-click actions for your fleet of hosts. We want to be able to do this with a script of some kind. We want to be able to do this automated through a programmatic manner, and that is exactly what we're going to be doing in the next section. So I'll see everyone there. Thank you.